Korea has shared intentions to boost inbound tourism, and as part of such efforts is a new visa for foreign K-pop trainees, among other initiatives. So what are the other initiatives? Why has tourism revenue been slow to recover? And how have inflation and social media affected tourism trends? Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Issues and Insiders. It's Wednesday, June 19th here in South Korea. I'm Min Sunhee. Korea is hoping to play host to 20 million foreign tourists this year, and in line with this intention, relevant officials recently unveiled a set of measures aimed at boosting inbound travelers from overseas. For more on this, I have Professor Bae So-young at Kyung Hee University live on the line. Professor Bae, it's good to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I also have Kwon Soa here in the studio. So welcome back.
Hello, Sunny.
Right, so what do findings for the first 4 months of this year tell us about the flow of foreign tourists to South Korea?
Well, Sunny, remember at the beginning of the year, around February, we were talking about the tourism trend here in Korea, and we saw significant recovery in 2023. Now, the recent figures, the latest data show a much bigger rebound in foreign tourists. Now, with a recovery to 88.8% of pre-pandemic levels in the January to April period. So let's take a close look at the trend in recent years. Back in 2019, that's of course before COVID-19 broke out, Korea welcomed a record high number of 17.5 million foreign tourists. The number plunged to 2.5 million the year after, and worse, to below 1 million for the entire year of 2021. The country experienced a rebound in 2022, and in 2023, things improved greatly with 11 million visitors. Now, if we draw our attention to the figures in the first 4 months of this year, 4.87 million international tourists, a huge jump from 2.6 million last year, so very roughly almost twice as much. Also, it's close to 89%, as I said, of the same period in 2019, raising hopes for the whole year, for which the government has set a goal of attracting 20 million tourists. Now, by country, the number of tourists from the top 2 visitors to Korea, China, and Japan have not yet recovered to pre-COVID levels, roughly 80%. We're talking about the January to April period again. However, compared to last year, the situation has improved immensely. Just look at China, from 250,000 to 1.4 million. And that goes for all countries. An on-year rise is seen in all of them. And also, when we look at tourists from Taiwan, the US, Indonesia, and Singapore, the figure has even risen beyond 2019 levels. The US 307,000 to 367,000, and Indonesia and Singapore having even recovered or actually surpassed 1 million in the first 4 months. Now, along with the recovery of the early months of the year, a speedier increase in foreign tourists is expected from here on, with an expansion of international airline routes in the second half of the year, and of course the summer vacation season coming up as well.
Right, indeed. Professor, despite the rebound in foreign travelers to South Korea, I understand tourism revenue has been recovering at a slower pace. How do you explain this discrepancy?
Yes, despite the rapid recovery in tourist arrival, tourism revenue has been slower to rebound. So in 2021, revenue dropped to 1.06 billion US dollars and only saw a slight recovery to 1.51 billion last year. And specifically, the average length of stay, it decreased from 7.8 days last year to 6.5 days in the first 4 months of this year. And why is that? First of all, globally, there is an inflation. Economy is not very strong. So people try not to, make long travel. And also they try to change their travel plans. So they rather choose closer destinations. And sometimes, they even choose destinations closer and make domestic trips. And the trend has even shifted from group tours to individual-based travel as well, and also from shopping-oriented activities to more cultural immersion and cultural experiences rather than very, very touristy activities. So in the past, many visitors to Korea came in groups And group tours usually have many shopping itineraries. But in recent years, influenced by K-content and K-culture, people rather like to enjoy like real life activities. So something that's very similar to what Koreans typically do. So rather than shopping at duty-free stores, they rather like to like shop at the convenience stores or beauty stores, or they would like to enjoy, chicken and beer or convenience store lunchbox rather than like eat at a fine dine restaurant. So rather than touristic activities and consumption-based activities, they like to do more like Korean typical leisure activities.
Right, so more cultural activities, which essentially then leads to a drop in revenue with regard to tourism income then. And staying with that, Soa, can you tell us a bit more about the shift in travel trends that Professor Bae touched upon?
Sure. I chose 3 keywords that would describe the trend: K-culture, experience, and activity. Korea lovers these days are really into experiencing K-culture in an active way. There we have it again: experience, K-culture, and active. So rather than sightseeing and enjoying traditional tourist attractions, like Professor Bae mentioned, it's about indulging into K-culture to the fullest. So let me bring up some examples. The K-pop dance experience. There are studios that have programs for foreigners visiting Korea where they can learn choreographies to idol groups' hit songs, with a professional even filming videos for the learners to post on their social media. A similar studio experience for those that are into singing, who can record their own cover of favorite K-pop songs with professional directing and vocal training as well. The personal color diagnosis is also very popular among tourists who are especially into K-beauty. They would get their personal color analyzed, then go shopping or get their hair and makeup done according to the results. And influenced by K-dramas, fortune-telling has also become a unique experience for foreign visitors, which is why more and more fortune-telling cafes actually provide foreign language services. And another shift in trend can be seen in the location foreign travelers like to visit. In the capital Seoul, Myeongdong used to be the place bustling with tourists. Nowadays, Seongsu has become one of the most hip places. In fact, a report showed that the number of Chinese tourists in January in the Seongsu area hiked almost 62% on year, whereas there was a tiny rise of 0.1% for locals. Now, lastly, I want to mention that foreign tourists to Korea are becoming younger. More than 1 in 3 foreigners who visited South Korea last year were under the age of 30. Those aged 21 to 30 accounted for 25.3%. Those aged 20 and under for 10.3%. That according to the Korea Tourism Organization's data.
Right, I see. And then, Professor Bae, as you mentioned earlier, high inflation has affected travel trends. That being said, then, how do you suppose has social media platforms affected trends on the tourism front?
Yes, the very, very notable trend is the importance of social media. So we are all surrounded by a flood of information. So when you decide to go somewhere, you will always bring smartphone and you will be connected to SNS channel. And it's become a primary source of travel information and also a major trigger to make travel decisions. So the 2 dominant behaviors of individuals living in this social media era, it's actually searching and sharing. So people search information from SNS channel, and also after their experience, they will for sure share their experience on the SNS channel. So people heavily rely on those experience-based information on SNS and also produce such information, and it affects their experience and the next travel decision as well. And in fact, people's travel motivation have changed, and they seek like Instagrammable places, Instagrammable contents, and also locations that are great for upload. And this travel trend actually influenced not only for the travel destination choice, but also their behavior and also their activity patterns. And also it's highly related to those K-culture spread. So thanks to those social media, it's contributed K-culture and K-content to become well-known on the global stage.
Right. And in light of this shift in travel trends, so I believe the government recently unveiled a new set of measures to better reflect this reality. Do tell us more.
Right. The government on Monday announced a comprehensive plan to enhance all aspects of tourism for international visitors, from improving convenience in entry procedures to offering a wide range of tourist programs, mainly to address the slow rebound in tourism revenue despite the rapid recovery in the number of tourists, which Professor Bae earlier explained to us. Now, one of the measures include the expansion of infrastructure for visa issuance, such as visa application centers, and a reduction of issuance time by increasing visa-related personnel. Group tourists can look forward to a simplification in applying for the KETA and electronic travel authorization. According to the Ministry of Finance and Economy, which made the announcement, revisions to visa rules are needed to successfully deal with changing tourism trends. And also in line with that, transportation is expected to become more convenient with new flight routes to connect cities outside of the capital, Seoul. So for instance, connections between the southern port city of Busan and Jakarta, or Chungcheongbuk-do province and Bali. There will also be an expansion of the Easy Drop service, which lets travelers check their bags outside the airport prior to departure. And if all goes as planned, the government is hoping to attract 30 million tourists annually and reap $30 billion in revenues stemming from this tourism by the year 2027.
Right. Meanwhile, Professor Bae, on a more concerning note, that is, there has been a bit of talk about the plunge in the number of travelers to South Korea from Thailand in recent times. Now, this particular country was also absent in the list that Soa shared with us earlier on. Could you tell us a bit more about this reality?
Yes. So from January to April this year, approximately 119,000 Thai tourists visited Korea, marking a 20% decrease compared to the same period last year. And also compared to pre-pandemic level, Thai tourist recovery remains very, very low, with numbers reaching only 58% of the 2019, the same period level. And something called KETA, as Soa mentioned briefly, it's being identified as a significant barrier in this context. Then, what's KETA? It's Korea, electronic travel authorization. So basically, Korea permits visa-free entry for the individuals from some particular country. And in this case, they don't need visa, but they still need to go through something called KETA to obtain electronic travel authorization online prior to their trips. So basically, they enter some personal information online. Then within 24 hours, they will get either approval or denial. But issues arises when travelers are denied entry without, knowing even the particular reasons. So if it's the group travel scenarios, and it's worse, because if somebody is approved while the others in the party are denied, then that's going to be the problem. And recently, the entry of those many Thai visitors has been denied. So they have expressed frustration on this KETA system because they consider this as like a second visa. And they ended up choosing the other destinations such as Japan or China because they have simpler entry procedures. And last year and this year have been designated as Visit Korea year. So the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism tried to, relieve and ease this system. But the Ministry of Justice, which oversees this system, cites security concerns like illegal stays or terrorism. So there is a strong need to reconcile this issue between those ministries.
Right, indeed, I see. Meanwhile, so moving forward, what is the latest on the medical tourism front here in the country?
There has been a visible increase in foreigners visiting Korea for medical reasons. Last year, the number of foreign patients hit 606,000. That's a 2.4 times more from the year before, and even a 1.2-fold rise from 2019, which was before the COVID-19 pandemic. The Hallyu fever, or interest in K-pop, K-drama, and K-movie movies, coupled with advanced medical service, appears to be attracting more foreign visitors to hospitals and clinics here. The popularity for medical tourism can be especially found in the capital, Seoul. According to a report by the Korea Health Industry Development Institute, the number of foreigners who visited Seoul for medical tourism stood at over 470,000 last year. That's a 3.2-fold jump from 2022 and even higher than some 320,000 in 2019. Hospitals in Seoul are increasingly being favored by tourists, as last year hospital visits by foreign guests in Seoul accounted for 78% of total hospital visits. Global Healthcare Service Index unveiled placed Seoul second in the world behind Taiwan in terms of healthcare services and costs last year. Skilled medical staff, quality of medical equipment, and the speed in taking tests were highly ranked.
Right. And against this backdrop, Professor Bae, what measures do you propose to better accommodate the surge in the number of foreign tourists in search of beauty and health-related services here in the country?
Yeah, first of all, it's very crucial to analyze the demand from various countries and tailor strategies accordingly. So customization is basically the key. So by understanding specific healthcare needs and preferences, Korea can develop tailored marketing campaigns and also specialized healthcare packages to its target country. And it's also essential to establish medical tourism cluster. So in key regions in Korea, so they offer top medical facilities with leisure and cultural activities, allowing patients and their families to enjoy a seamless blend of healthcare as well as tourism. So it will enhance their overall satisfaction, and also it will help distribute those medical demands more evenly across the country. And another thing is promotional efforts. The Korea should be visible on the global stage. So it should be recognized as a premier medical tourism destination. So we need to fully leverage our advanced ICT capabilities to offer people more accessibility of information for potential medical tourists. So that way they can easily access information, make reservation, and also consult with healthcare providers.
Right, of course. And so looking ahead now, what are some factors that look to further facilitate tourist travel to South Korea?
Well, as we have been mentioning, the government's ambitious goal for this year is to attract 20 million foreign visitors, which is part of the 2023-2024 Visit Korea Year initiative. Now, 20 million might be a big challenge, which officials from the Tourism Ministry themselves admit. However, there are a number of rosy factors in the remainder of the year we can keep an eye on. For one, the government has planned large-scale festivals and events incorporating K-culture in the second half of the year, with a growing interest in K-pop, K-movies, K-dramas, K-beauty, and K-food. And also, a significant event held last month is expected to boost inbound travel. South Korea, China, and Japan held their first trilateral summit in more than 4 years in late May, during which the three sides openly agreed to increase the number of people-to-people exchanges through the promotion of cooperation in culture, education, and tourism. So Korea could be looking forward to the top 2 visiting nations travelers to come back to Korea to the level of 2019. And another notable point to mention is the growing number of foreign tourists visiting Jeju-do Island. In the January to April period, 382,000 foreign arrivals were recorded at Jeju International Airport and Jeju Harbor, and that's a 406% surge from the same period last year, and also already 6.7% increase from 2019.
Right, I see. And amid these rosy prospects, Professor Bae, there are pundits who say Korea needs to make greater efforts to raise its rate of returning visitors. What do you say?
Yeah, in general, travel, requires considerable time and considerable money and energy as well. So tourists will revisit a destination only if their first experience was extremely satisfying, or if there is a compelling reason to return. And the rate of revisit to Korea dropped from 50% back in 2019, but to 43% last year. It means addressing their barriers and inconveniences, it will be very, very important. And one thing to deal with will be mobility issue. So for example, when we go travel, we always bring smartphone and we use like map applications. But rather than using like Google Maps, in Korea, we usually use like local map applications. So we need to ensure like foreign tourists to have a very user-friendly interface and also with like language support. So they get enough traffic information and also local information as well. And actually language is also the issue to deal with. So Korea lacks like adequate language signage as well. So these days, many people from the global world, they have a high expectation of Korean cuisine driven by Hallyu. And also, bibimbap has been noticed and recognized as the most searched word on Google as well last year among those recipe words. So we really need to urgently deal with this incorrect or absent English description at restaurants. And one last thing to add will be related to K-culture, as the Soa highlighted. So while K-culture motivates many people to visit Korea, but we still need more engaging experiences for tourists. So we need to develop more K-pop, K-food, K-beauty, movie-related specific contents to enjoy.
Right, definitely. There is much room for improvement then. Professor Bae, as always, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts today. And so here in the studio, thank you very much for your insights.
My pleasure.
Right, well, that brings us to the end of this edition of Issues and Insiders. Thank you for watching.